call to the cloud. Okay, so welcome everybody to our fourth partner community webinar. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're watching this from. So let me move these guys out of the way and hit present. Okay, that's better. So let's get started without further ado. So what we're going to be looking at tonight is a bit of a feature update progress. So letting you know what the team's been working on, what's coming out very shortly. We're also going to show you or introduce a few new team members, two of which have joined recently, and one more to come in a few weeks' time, I believe, and their roles. Then we're going to have a look at the import tools. We've touched on this before in previous webinars, so we won't go through all of the same details again, but we're going to look at two tools in particular, so the new static site import tool and the BC exporter tool. So then we'll also look at how you can combine those or use them as in a mixture of ways to streamline migrations or other new projects as well. We're also going to look at some of the benefits there. So how you can win new projects using the site import tool with relatively low amount of work initially to help get the ball rolling there. Then we're going to take a look at Zapier connectivity. So I'm going to show you how to get started with Zapier if you haven't already looked at that. I'm going to show a few different examples of use cases, and then I'm also going to be joined by Engineers Devon Real, who will be showing us some real life examples of some of the Zaps that he's put together for his clients to benefit them. Then we're going to look at, so we'll recap on the bulk plans that we introduced last month, but we're also going to give an announcement on the BC partner offer as well. So let's get started. So I won't run through these all in the same detail that we did last time. So these are our top 10 features. So we've got e-commerce phase 2, secure zones, CRM user segments, BC blog module import, public API and Zapier, e-commerce subscriptions, user roles, billing, staging to production, and usage and upgrades. So the BC blog module import tool has been progressing. It's been tested by a number of partners and data sets. The guys are working out a few of the kinks. So they're looking to release that very soon if they haven't already. No, very soon. So then the other one to note is staging to production. We've been working with the Platform OS team on that one to obviously use their database and flows. So work is underway. It's just going to be a little bit of time before we get it out into the UI. Then have I missed one? Public API Zapier phase 2. I believe that's done. So I'll show you a few extra endpoints that have been added to both of those very shortly. And then site usage upgrades flows as well. I'll give you a little preview of what's coming, I believe, tomorrow on that front, and then the plans for the next month or so as well. So first of all, as promised, the new Siteglide team members. So we have Paul, who is a developer, React developer. He's joining our dev team to work on the product, particularly around UI UX, so improving the way some of the flows in the UI work. And he'll be working alongside our second new hire, D, who is a designer for the product UI and UX. So he'll be managing things like layout library, the product itself and its UI, the user flows, etc. So we're excited to get those guys working together along with a few of the other developers so that we can focus on UI UX at the same time as doing all of the core features that everyone is asking for. And thirdly, we have Bianca. So she's not joined us just yet. She'll be joining in a few weeks' time, I believe, maybe a month. And she'll be joining the marketing team to look at strategy and onboarding for new partners into the community. So those outside of the BC community as well. So we're excited to have them aboard. Obviously, none of them have joined us in the office yet, but so we've had some interesting first day calls and introductions to the team, but I'm sure we'll see them all in due course. So next up is the static site importer tool. So this slide will look familiar for anybody who watched our webinar last time. This tool allows you to migrate any existing live sites from the internet into a fresh Siteglide site. So this means you could do it for a BC site, you can do it for a WordPress site, or any other website online. If the page is publicly available, our tool will be able to pull that down. This is using the frameworks that the Platform OS team have put in place, so awesome job. If you want more information on how all of this works, you can check out the last webinar. We'll link that, I'm sure. While importing, it also optimizes images and JavaScript files, libraries, CSS, etc. So you are pretty much guaranteed, unless it's a very, very high-end site, to see performance improvements, along with SEO improvements as well. More on that later or shortly. And thirdly is add value on top over time. This is one of the things we're going to be looking at tonight. So what do you need to have imported to put a site live? And then what can you do on top of that to integrate and give more benefit to the client as well? So let me, so let's do this now. So actually, hold on. What I'm going to do is, sorry, back out of that. We'll just quickly head over to the landing page. So if anybody hasn't seen this, we'll include this in the links afterwards. You can head over to the site import landing page on the Siteglide website, and you get a whole bunch of information about how it works, what the benefits are, what's involved. There's a little demo here for you. And there's even a form at the bottom to request somebody do the import from our side for you. So if you don't have a developer in your team, or you just don't have time, or you're not technical enough to do the command line interface, you can just ask our team to do it on your behalf. So let's head back here. So what we're going to have a look at tonight, I'm going to do a little bit of demoing and I'll show you a few examples, but we won't go through an entire website. So of what is involved when you import a site to the go live phase. So the first one, as you will have seen, is the static site import tool. So that is going to pull through all of your pages into the pages section of your Siteglide admin, along with all of the assets into File Manager. The second, and I'll go into more detail with these very shortly, is the BC web app import tool. So if you're importing a BC website that used web apps, modules, any other data stuff over there, we recommend that you use the BC exporter tool by Karim and his crew, which will give you a folder that you can zip and import so that you don't have to manually rebuild all of your web apps, etc. Again, I'll touch on that in a moment. And then the third step is integrations and going live. So let's back out of here and we'll get started. Okay, so bear with me. There we go. So let me move Zoom out the way. There we go. That's it. So this is an example site. I believe it's one of the partner client websites. And the site is currently on BC. So we can see here, it's a pretty simple site. I picked it because it's fairly small and straightforward, and also fairly typical in terms of functionality that you would see. So it's got a form in here, and Google Maps, things like that. So this is obviously the live site currently. You'll note it doesn't have SSL or anything, or anything like that. And ooh, my internet's lagging, sorry. Okie dokie. So you can see that this site is in here and it's got a few web apps, and I'll touch on that shortly. So what I'm going to do is show you the imported version. So all I did earlier was run an import on this site. I haven't done anything else to it, and you can take a look and go from there with me. So welcome to my fourth test site. I'm sure Platform is very happy with me making so many test sites. And you can see that just right off the bat, it looks very, very similar to the previous site. In fact, I think it's pretty much all there apart from that JavaScript that I've expanded, and it looks the same. So I can also head into our Siteglide admin and head over to pages. So we've got the home page here. Now then, when I open Page Builder, you'll see that it's basically done only the import. So you can see I haven't made any changes here. It simply grabbed the whole page and dumped it into this file. So we've got all of the head scripts and things like this, and then we've got the body tag with the content inside and the footer at the bottom. And you can also see here that because it's pulled it from the front end of the site, all of these services and web apps are just static content at the moment, so they're not hooked up to anything. So the first step we'll do is, and this will be the same for every site you import, I can either put it live as it is now. I might want to tweak a few things like the Google Maps API key. I can put that back in, recapture, just check that that key is also accurate. So I could now apply a site plan and put it live, and the client would be up and running. But alternatively, what we can do is begin to integrate with some of the features of Siteglide, tidy things up to future-proof and mean that your team can build and continue to develop the site as it goes forwards. Now, you could either do that before you put it live, or we could put this live now and do those over the next month or so as support budgets require for the client, things like that. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just take out the head script. So everything outside the body, basically, we're going to take that and make a fresh page template. So let's open that in a new tab if I can. There we go. So, and we're also going to take the bottom of the content. Now, what I'm going to do is just check, because I can't quite remember where their footer starts. So they've probably got a class or an ID or something like that. Social footer is where their starts. So let's make a new template. So above my page content, I'm going to dump that in. I'll call this main, that's fine. And then below, we're just going to output our footer. So let's grab that as well. There we go. So everything from this point and below we'll grab there as well. So we'll save that on our page, and I'll come over here, paste that in there, save my template. Okay, so now that I've saved the page but haven't applied the template, just to prove I have actually done it. Ooh, no, sorry, that's their live website. Let's go back to mine. There we go. So you can see all of the styling's been removed, and you're just getting the plain basic HTML out now. So now we'll apply the page template that I've just created. I might need to refresh for that, because I've only just made this one. Okay. So let's apply that template. So that's the first step. So now, any of the future pages that we might make for this client, we can just apply that same template, and you get the same process. So you don't have to then recode or include the header and footer in every single page that you're doing moving forwards. So that's step one. So there are obviously some other changes that we can make. So for example, the form at the bottom here, let's go down, that's the template. Okay, so let's head down here. There's obviously quite a few web app items in there that we'll deal with shortly. Okay, where are we at? Ooh. There we go, here's the form. So you can see it's just a basic HTML form. So one of the things we could do is switch that out. So I could go and create a Siteglide form and then copy this into the layout and make sure the classes are the same and re-output that on the page using Toolbox. I'm not going to do that right now. What I'm going to focus on is the web apps. So you can see that I've made a web app over here. Now, if you were using BC Exporter, you wouldn't need to create any web apps. You would import a folder. So you can see here, this is an example of what BC Exporter gives you, pretty much as you would get it, except for this zip, which I've created. And you can see, if for anybody who doesn't know, all of our web apps, items, and structure are exported for us. So what we would do is move in the categories JSON into the web apps folder and then zip this up, which is what I've got here. I can then throw that at the Siteglide system and it'll pull them all in for you. I wasn't able to get a BC export version of this site, which is why I've created a web app instead. But we can see in here that there's nothing there. So let's do. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, just import our data. Again, I prepared the file earlier just because there's no point everybody watching that. So you can see in here, it's a fairly typical web app CSV. And we will put that in and import this. Okie dokie. So that will take a minute, but there's not that many items, so we should probably find that it's already started doing them. There you go. So we now all have all of our items. So just to prove that that's the same, let's go into the first one, and I will pull up the BC version. WebApps, work, and number 1. Okay. So obviously we've got all the generic fields here, but I've also got the custom fields there. So we've got the image field, which we can see is working, and then some of the other custom fields such as category, title, and so on. So if I come over here, you can see the same. So the image field, category, title, and so on. So now that that data is in our site, we have a bit of a mismatch because the page has all the static content and we now have all of the data as well, but they aren't connected just yet. So what we're going to do is first of all create the layout for this, and then we're going to output all of the data to make that section of the page dynamic. So again, you don't have to do this. We could go live without it. But this is just an example of one of the things we can do. Okay, so let's scroll down. So we have an event here, item 1. And I'm also just going to quickly inspect on the page just to check where the outer wrappers are, so we don't miss anything. Yeah, good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is copy this to the end of the div here, like this, and we're going to go and create our layout. So if I come to code editor, I may need to refresh, but let's have a look. Web apps, and you can see the web app I've created, and we're just going to edit the list default layout in here. So I'm going to paste in the hard-coded content. Images, the image field, the category, the name and title, for etc., are all of the things that we're going to edit here. So first of all, let's do I believe this is the title. There we go. Let's do that. Then we have item description, which is down here. So we'll switch this out. And UK events, that looks like a category to me, so we'll insert the category. Now, we'll note that on this particular site, by design, they weren't using proper categories, they're just using them as tag names, which is why we're doing it this way. So let's put project category in as well. And then finally, the image. So I'm just going to dump it out below because I know that we like being helpful with our output. There we go, and the image here. So I'm just going to copy this bit here and then get rid of it. Okay, cool. So that is the first iteration. Now, what I suspect we're going to find is that the item ID here, because it changed on the page, is going to cause a problem for us, but I can't remember the liquid tag for the counter. So if it fails, and we'll tweak that later. So what we'll do next is we're going to be in our page here, we're just going to delete all of the hard-coded items. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom and get rid of those, or close to the bottom. Okay. Let's do it periodically so we don't overshoot. Okay. There's quite a few in here. We'll go to 54. Okay, we're getting close. Okay, there's one, and then we're left with the last item, just to make sure we don't delete the divs. There we go, good. So I'm just going to put this in as a place marker, because what we're going to need to do possibly is, oh no, we don't, sorry, apologies. So all we're going to do is use Toolbox to output the data we just imported using the layout that we just created. So I'm going to say I want a list of all items in the work web app using the default layout, all items. I haven't sorted them by weight, so they won't be in the exact same order, but let's give it a go. Okie dokie, so now let's refresh our page and see what we get. There you go. So we can see that we have the web apps being outputted, and if we inspect, they're going to be now generating using, and you can see they're all got an ID of item 1, which shows it's using my layout, but it would be something we'd fix shortly. Anyway, so that is a little bit of a run through of just some of the things you can start integrating. So I mentioned forms. You could also do the same for the menu. You could create a dynamic menu and then integrate and edit the layout there using the same process to begin benefiting the client. The other thing is you could offer your client an SEO review. So you could say, right, well, seeing as we're moving it all, we might as well check that they all have alt tags and things like that. So for example, I noticed when I was doing this earlier, doing the import earlier, the web app doesn't have any alt tags for the images. Just one thing that we could offer there. Okay, so what was I coming on to next? Let's go back to the benefits. Okie dokie. So next up is winning new projects and the benefits in moving. So a few of you have already asked this, and I've sort of given you answers via email and that sort of thing, but I thought I'd sort of capitalize on it and offer that to the rest of the partner community as well. So obviously there's your core offering that you're giving to them, the fact that you can deliver fully bespoke solutions from design to code. So you give them the end-to-end treatment, which means that you can fit a solution to the client's needs, not fit the client to the platform's needs, as is quite often the case with DIY solutions and so on. The second is performance and reliability. Now, this is one you can demonstrate pretty quickly. So by doing the static import tool, it's immediately on AWS. So you should, some sites you may not, you may have to do a bit of tweaking, but you should pretty quickly be able to demonstrate that the pages load more quickly. And the performance for the SEO scores are improved as well. The second is our technology partners. So the fact that we partner with people like Platform OS mean that we have an exceptional core architecture that is the backbone of the platform. And that means that you can continue scaling projects as your clients grow. And they're not going to hit a limit where they find that they're going to need to move to another platform because the website's becoming unwieldy or unresponsive or slow, or they've had to have lots of extra bolt-ons, for example. We also integrate all the latest technologies. So in 5 years' time, we're not going to be hamstrung and then also need to go to a new platform because the platform will continue to adapt and improve. And finally, there's no hidden costs. So a lot of the smaller DIY solutions are great. A client can create a free account, they can point and click and make themselves a website and it would look pretty. But there's quite often a lot of extra hidden costs, as many of them find. So there's usually a balancing act. So once they discover that, there then is a pain period, and then hopefully their business grows to a size that enables them to go, right, now I need to move on to a better platform. So the other thing is our usage-based system means that all plans get access to all features. So if they want to go and add on recapture, for example, or a secure zone area for their clients to log into, they're not going to have to pay extra and keep adding to that monthly bill. You can do that for them. And obviously, as we've touched on, and I'm sure most of you are already aware, the website runs on AWS, so you get industry-leading security, reliability, along with the free SSL certificates, so that the customers have peace of mind when they come to a site. So there are other benefits around this, but these are the core pillars, and we can add to those on pages over time. Okay, so next is, how are we doing on time? Okay, I better speed up. Next is solutions with Zapier. So again, this is a slide that will be familiar to those of you who have joined us previously. So we have CRM users, cases and orders, web app and products, and all of those are accessible via the public API, which I'll show you shortly, and you can connect to thousands of different apps online. So let me just go straight into the demo here rather than continuing to explain. So Zapier, no, where are we going to go first? Sorry, API. There we go. So I mentioned earlier when we were doing our update on progress that more endpoints have been added to the public API and the Zapier app. So you can see in here that we do indeed have more in here now, particularly around the CRM users, e-commerce orders, products, and an extra one for get for sending data back in. So all of these are also accessible via Zapier. And Zapier, for those of you who haven't seen our app on here yet, we're searchable in their list of apps, and it will give you an indication of the different triggers, actions, and so on that you can utilize here as well. So what I'm going to do is just go through a few different use cases. I can't remember if I had a slide on this or not. Yes, I did. Okay, so the first use case is sending new form cases via Zapier to MailChimp. So effectively email marketing, which is going to allow your client to manage their email marketing, list segments, automated emails, campaigns, etc. through MailChimp without having to do manual import and export of data from their site to that package. So I have some of these pre-set up. Let's go to MailChimp. Oh no, sorry, hold on. Bear with me. So let's create a new Zap. Just in case anybody's a bit unsure or haven't tried this yet, I thought I'd go through and show you how to hook our app up to Zapier and go from there. So we'll make a new one. So when you go and make your first Zap, you'll be able to search for our app in here. There you go. You'll only see the one. And then we get to select a trigger event. So obviously for this particular use case, I'm going with a new form case. And then it'll ask you to select the account. Now, if this is the first time you're doing it, you won't see all of these. So you can just go right, add new account. And then you get a little form that asks you for your Siteglide email address, your site ID, the one you want to connect with, and your Siteglide password. You fill those out and it will just automatically log you in and authorize. And it is as simple as that. Then you can see that you'll have your account listed and connected securely with your Zapier account. So let's go into the MailChimp one. So I've preset this up for speed. So we can see the similar steps that I've just been through. So I've selected I want a new form case. I've selected the account I'd like to connect with in the site. And then it'll ask you which form you'd like to connect with. So I've only got one, so I've selected that. And it will go off and it will find an example case that already exists. So you can see this test data here as well. And then what we're going to do is say, okay, well, I want to take that data and I want to put it into MailChimp. So I, again, select my MailChimp account and authorize that. You can see I've selected it there. And then we get into customizing the subscriber. So what data do we want to send to MailChimp? So you have which of your segments in MailChimp you'd like to send it to, your email address. Now you can also do double opt-in here. So for those of you who have clients who would like double opt-in, you can have that automatically trigger using MailChimp. So when a new person is added to a segment in MailChimp, they will send independently an email out before confirming and adding them to the list for those GDPR requirements. And then there's a whole bunch of other options in terms of grouping, update existing, etc. But I can also add tags. So I've got one B2B in here. You could add in any number of tags that you'd like. And we can see that these correspond with the tags that I have set up in my MailChimp account. So this means I can dynamically create segments depending on which form somebody's filled out, or perhaps which, month on month, I could change which tag the form is providing with the user with. Alrighty. So below that, you've got a whole bunch of other fields, so you could add those in if you like, entirely up to you guys. And then it will do a test send and send that across. So that is the first use case. Let me come back. What are we doing on time? That's good. Next. So second use case is sending a new CRM user to Zapier, via Zapier to ActiveCampaign. So this one's about marketing automations and flows. So it's a little bit more complex and beyond just basic email marketing. So it's going to allow Zapier to check the website and send any new CRM users it finds to the ActiveCampaign account. And from there, as we're going to look at, you can use that to configure various email campaigns or enter them into marketing automations. So I'll briefly show you this as well in Zapier. Okay, so we followed the same setup as you would expect for our app. And then again, we then said, okay, we want to send to our ActiveCampaign account. and it's asked me to log in and verify who I am. And then I'm, again, just like the MailChimp one, defining the data that I'm going to send over. And I'm also using a tag in here for B2B just because, and it can test that and send it over. So if I come into my newly created active campaign account, we can see that in my list of contacts, there is a couple of contacts that I did for testing earlier. And what I've got is I've got an automation here. Oh, by the way, we can set up lists. I've skipped over that. So you can have as many mailing lists as you'd like. And I specify I want it to go to this particular list. And then on the automation front, what we can do here is I've got a basic welcome email campaign set up. So it's just one of their presets, I believe. Now, as you'll see in a moment, when a contact subscribes to Martin's list, which is my only list, it'll automatically place them in the automation flow that we're looking at here. So it will send them a few emails periodically, and it's dynamic from when the action takes place. And then it will start going down. So you can see that you can do some really complex stuff in terms of, do they have specific tags? Has it been a certain amount of time? There's various things you can do here and adapt the marketing campaign that you are sending to them with various endings. So you can see there's a few here that says, okay, well, it's expired now, that's it. Or maybe you want to cancel and then redo the same campaign. So there's quite a lot in here. I won't go through all of them, but if you're looking for, so perhaps some of your larger clients and looking for marketing automation flows for, it's not just email, they can do SMS, automatic tagging, integrations with other things as well. Definitely check out these guys. And the third one, so I have one more and then I'll pass over to Devon. And then the third one is sending a new form case again via Zapier to calendar. So in this example, or this use case, I've got a booking form on a website that says I want to book a slot in for somebody to come and cut my hair. And when somebody fills it out, we can send that via Zapier to Google Calendar. So let's go to here. And we go to the one that I've just set up. So again, I've authorized our app and I've authorized my Google account so that it can access my calendar. And then just like all the others, you have a whole bunch of fields and information. So you can see that I've created a specific one for booking and then the name, you can customize it, address, contact and source, and you can set up start and end dates, whether it repeats. You can add multiple invitees, things like that. So this is going to be quite useful if your client has staff that go around, so they go and visit people, maybe it's an auction house and they've got to go and check out items, things like that. The team can be out and about and on the go and doing what they do best, and the website information is automatically and dynamically pushed into their personal schedule. So just one other use case on that front. Okie dokie, so back over to Devon.
Cool. Again, I was just going to quickly give you an overview. I probably won't go into like all the Zap details that Martin did, just to keep it brief, but we have started using this with 2 of our clients in multiple ways for those 2 clients. And I'll just quickly show you how that's going. So got 2 different accounts open here. This one, I'll start with the simpler one. So this simpler one is a migration we're in the middle of from BC right now. What we had on BC was basically they use ActiveCampaign heavily. They use the deal pipelines in ActiveCampaign. They use it for automating emails, but their entire sales funnel is managed in ActiveCampaign, and they've got 4 physical locations, all with their own sales funnels. So we basically were using native ActiveCampaign forms on their website in BC. The native ActiveCampaign forms are okay. They're not great. The code is really a mess too. And if you want to modify it at all, it's kind of a pain. So we were excited to try this on Siteglide. So we've got one where we're getting Siteglide leads, it's just a regular Siteglide form, and that's putting that person directly into an ActiveCampaign automation, and then all those fancy things that Martin was pointing out are happening. A little spider web kind of happens. And then we have a different lead form where they're just getting tagged in ActiveCampaign, like their email is getting added and then they're getting tagged. And then based on the tag that they get, they're getting, they're going to, enter a different automation, right? But one thing that we've noticed in working with Zapier is you can use a free account. That's totally cool, and or you can use a more limited account. We've moved up to the pro account because of a thing called paths. So based on the say, like you have a drop down in your form and it's for a product. I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in that, or I'm interested in this. Like based on whatever they choose, you can sort of send them on a different path. And so we've started using that a lot more in Zapier. That's one reason to just look at that plan. That's kind of cool. It's sort of like conditional logic. So that client, we're basically pretty simple. It's a form, and then we're getting them into ActiveCampaign. For this other client, we're doing more things. So, and I'll tell you a little bit about what this represents in terms of their, like the value to the client, because I think that's the point of me bringing this up. So we're doing, one thing you'll notice here is like on these apps, there's three systems involved, right? There's Siteglide, there's MailChimp, there's Google Sheets, okay? And you could have more, obviously, as you go. We might add Slack in here. So it's the idea of having like one chain that covers a whole bunch of different activities. This was previously being achieved by like raw data exports and imports and checks and all that. So that was really, that was very labor intensive. They run a course that they open registration for 3 times a year. At the end of that registration window, we would probably spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours checking data, exporting data out of Siteglide, checking it, importing it into MailChimp, checking that data into MailChimp into several different lists. So now what we can do is simply, as soon as that registration goes through, instantly, they get sent over and tagged in MailChimp exactly, which is great. And then this Google Sheet is a shipping report. So the other advantage here is if your client is exporting like a form case report, right, from Siteglide, you can do that. You can just go into the form, and you can click on the form and you can go to export case, export, and you'll just kick out all the data that came into that form. But if I'm a person who ships books, all I really care about is like the name, the shipping address, and like the book they chose, right? I don't really want all this other stuff to sift through. And every time I hit export, even if I use the date range, I'm just going to get all that stuff. So with our Zap, the MailChimp thing happens. Boom, that's 4 to 6 hours of manual importing that doesn't have to happen. Now, instantly, the shipping person gets only the data they want from that form in their Google Sheet, which is huge. And they could even get a text or a Slack message or something like that just to know that more books came in. So we're basically applying the same method to like 4 or 5 different forms in this process. And so it's going to be super efficient for them. And we're just charging them like flat project fees to set up the Zaps, which are easy to sell because it's like, how many man hours does this represent? How many times does that happen a year? What does that cost? And then what demonstrates the value, so easily. The other thing we're doing, which is creative, and I don't know if it's going to work yet, but I built a Zap called a fail spotter, which is basically like, okay, so sometimes Stripe payments fail, or like a case doesn't get created. This is a higher volume thing, so maybe there's like 800 to 1,000 registrants, right? So there's a lot of people running through this thing, and you might something might fail along the way. So my idea here was capture all the cases in one Google Sheet. That's this app here, okay? Then capture all the Stripe payments in this other Google Sheet. That's this Stripe sheet over here, or this here, and then compare the two. So there's like there's another Google Sheet. There's another tab on the Google Sheet that basically says like, these email addresses are on the Stripe list. These email addresses are in the case list. If there's any that do not match up, like there's one on the other but not on the other, then flag it and put it in the third row. So the reason that's super valuable is that like what's happened in the past is whenever there's failures, these registrations are coming from all over the world, tons of different kinds of internet connections. It's just inevitable that there will be customer service things. This allows us to be proactive with them and catch things before, so we can reach out to a customer and say, hey, something didn't happen well with the system. So, like, we're on it and we'll fix it, instead of reacting, which is what we inevitably end up doing. So that's my creative use. And my last creative use is that she's got a ChargeBee account where she's charging people for a recurring product, because we didn't have that ready yet. So she just set up a ChargeBee account quickly and it's working fine. And right now she's manually giving people access. These are existing customers that are in Siteglide, but they're buying a new thing, okay? And it's a recurring payment. So what I want to do is automate. Once the ChargeBee subscription gets created, I want to update the CRM user to have new secure zone access. Haven't really figured that one out yet, because at the moment I got to talk to Dean, but basically like you can only search by ID and I don't know the person's ID. So Martin or Luke, if you have a creative way to figure that out, I would just have their email address. So, but that's my next kind of like thing to shoot for. But last thing I'll say is it's really easy to sell this work, because the value is quantifiable and you can put a multiple on it and like still charge a good rate to do that kind of setup. So, and then maintain it over time.
Just to jump in very quickly there, Devon, to hopefully give you an answer on the spot. In Zapier, when you start using it, Martin showed that there's triggers and there's actions. There's also a third type called searches. So you should be able to run a search just before you want to do the action, which would be find a user. So are you in a search?
Yeah, so like this is the find, but the thing is like, so if I'm in ChargeBee, I'm gonna have the person's email address. I'm not gonna have their Siteglide like ID, and this is what it's asking for.
That's the that's the only field we do it on. Okay, we'll take a look at that. But yeah, you should. The
So,
idea
I mean,
is
maybe
you should be able
that's
to search by email. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, this is the great thing is that like, I'll just say one more thing about this integration so far. I mean, it's huge. There's other platforms out there that are sort of trying to be BC replacements that are even they're just now starting to talk about this integration, and they're like, they really want it. But the things that have happened so far, like in version 1 and 2, it's like it's happened very quickly. I've been super impressed by that. And like as an example, I threw a site in here that has like a ton of web apps and web apps with data sources and like lots of deleted web apps and deleted web app fields. And for example, we're like, oh, hey, Zapier's pulling in deleted web app fields. Well, like within a week and a half or two, like Dean had resolved that, and now it just pulls in like web app fields that exist in your web app. So it's like, you guys have been really proactive about this, and it seems like that's going to make this even more powerful, like as we have new ideas. So that's my thing.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, that's great to hear, and great to see some of those use cases saving your client money.
Yeah,
and
making you money. Yeah, at the same time, it's like a win-win, totally.
Just a couple more points there. Nick had put in the chat about whether you could like set up a partner-wide Zapier account or whether you do it per client. I think that's just down to preference, yeah? Whether you want the client to have access to Zapier. Is that how you do it for for your
Yeah,
clients?
we do. We actually, it's 1-in-1. In the cases I gave you, like one of the clients, I had she's going to use the higher volume one. She's going to use it more. Like there's going to be more activity there and more zaps. So I had her set up her own. Our general principle as an agency is like clients pay for their own tools. So like this is a tool. That's generally what we do. In the case of the other one that's not using it that much, we have like a marketing retainer with her, and so I like we usually pay for our own tools in that arrangement. It's a little different, but
Yeah.
the other one is sort of
But because you connect per site and it'll show you which site, you could run multiple clients through one account if you wanted to. It's completely up
and we do
to
that. Yep.
you guys what you want to do. So, and the final point to make from the chat as well, and to your point, Evan, about sort of updates, this is all run off our API. So we've already got the API as such a core part of our product. We've already got endpoints for posting and getting and everything for the main features. And as we add more features, they can all be added to the API. So it's just something that continually gets updated. The hard part was getting it in the first place. And if you don't want to use Zapier, you can literally use this directly, as well as potentially hook it up with other tools like Zapier.
Excellent, good stuff. Were there any other questions from chat just before we move on?
I would just say one more thing, like just because I know you guys are agency owners, so you're wondering maybe like what things cost. You can look at the pricing sheet, but like you could probably get away with the free plan for a lot of your clients that just have like a basic brochure website and like a form. The starter plan is like $25 a month, and yes, you could run multiple low volume clients on that for sure. 750 tasks would cover you there. The pro plan is as high as we've gone, and that's for like the max use case. Like I can't even really see someone using more than that. So that's, I mean, it's possible, but not likely like across the board. So hopefully that gives you guys a little sense of what that is.
Excellent. And also, actually, while I think of it, the usage here doesn't contribute to API usage on the site because you're getting information and putting it somewhere else. So that's also a good point. Sorry, Luke, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, because our pricing model is usage based as well. You can start to use tools like this and quite easily control the offer to clients. You can charge a smaller client less because they're using less, and it's a much more manageable model, I think. Back to
awesome. Yeah, I mean, does anybody have any questions for Devon on any of the awesome use cases he's put together there for his clients before we move on? Speak now, forever hold your peace. No? Okay. Awesome. Cheers, Devon. Right, let's crack on. So I've got to circle back around because I realized I skipped over something earlier, which is quite important. So next up, we're going to look at billing and usage, or rather the billing and the big announcement that we were going to announce to everybody, but you're going to wait just a couple of minutes longer while I show you the usage and billing updates that are going to be coming out tomorrow. So I think I have to switch tabs. There we go. Okay, so after tomorrow's update, you will on admin be able to view a subscription tab in your site settings, which looks an awful lot like this one. So this is just one of my test sites, one of my several test sites. And you can see in here that it's tracking my current usage across the board. And if I scroll down, we can also see a big graph of usage down here and a breakdown as well. So it's not just looking at CMS items where are those going to get made up. So so that's the first one. But what I'm going to do is just switch to a screenshot as well, because this has more information on, because it's not just my test site. So if I can zoom properly. That's as far as I can zoom. Okay, so here is an example site. So this is a live site, and it shows our current plan status and then the expected updates, expected upgrade. So that's the next plan that you would go on to if you needed to scale up for usage and didn't remove any. And again, you can see that there is this table below with a breakdown of all the data in there as well. And you can see you've got different segments. So if you've got e-commerce installed, that's there as well, etc. So that's the first one. That's coming out tomorrow. And Luke, did you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I'll just jump in quickly on that. So
yeah.
on the live site, so this is an example of one. We're releasing that so that you can review the usage, and we're going to be contacting all partners with any live sites to explain how that works and just make sure everyone's understanding it. Look at any queries on it before any upgrade processes are brought in. So just to reassure anybody with a live site, that will be the case. On trial sites, that will be our next focus, is to work out that flow of getting sites up onto the correct plan when you go live. But the left-hand box that Martin showed in his other tab should give you an idea of what plan will be required for go live. Just to explain the data a little bit more, Martin, do you mind going back to the other one? Sorry. So the top box with the graph is what you build based on. So you build based on peak usage in the current month. So if you had 10,000 items and then you delete 5,000, you obviously had 10,000 that month. So that is what the plan is based on for that month. But the second you go into the next month, it's going to be based on the lower amount. So peak is what it's built on. The table below gives you an idea of what you're currently using and the breakdown in Siteglide specifically. So you can start to see the value of, if you've priced up getting a CMS, a CRM, an e-commerce platform, secure zones, all those kind of things, you can kind of start to show that value to the client of what the current usage is. And the one up at the top gives you an idea of what you've actually used. This will only be available to partners in the portal initially, and we will discuss user roles and how that might be made more available if you would want to customers. But just to reassure, it's only for partners initially, or pays. If there's any questions, let us know. But obviously, we will be sending out more information, including a release on that tomorrow. So we just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek and explanation of it.
Fantastic, good stuff. Okay, so I'll switch back to this here. Okay, so just to recap on the announcement we made, I think this is last webinar, on the new site plans, the increase in usage, and also the bulk discounts available, before we come on to the announcement that everyone's waiting for, is so we've got 3 new plans. I might just dive out. Let's do this. So we've got 3 new plans. We've increased usage limits, which I'll point out in a moment, and we've also got the new agency starter packs. So I will just quickly show that before we move on. Here we go. So if you come over to the agency pricing page, you'll see the new annual packs at the top. So you get a big discount on top of the partner discount you already have for packs of sites there. So you can buy 10 at a time, and then use the new site import tool to get sites over quickly and up and running, if that is the approach you would like to take. And then you can also see the new static site plans. So we think these will be best suited for those smaller sites that don't perhaps have database objects and a lot of things like that. They're just front end HTML code. So that should make them more accessible. And you can also see there's subtle increases in terms of data across all of the plans. But one of the most obvious is the increase of 3 admin users base on all plans. So it's no longer 1. We've allowed 3 admin users, and an admin user is somebody not part of your agency. So as a partner, you don't count. It's just the client partner users. The client staff users. And you can see that they scale much more rapidly now on the higher plans as well. And we've added in some additional plans. So we've added in a few further up, such as growth and some of the enterprise ones, to provide more flexibility for partners. Okay, so I can also announce that, there we go, we have an update to the Adobe BC partner offer that you are all currently receiving. So previously it was due to end on the 26th of June, so in a few days. And I'm excited to announce that we are now pushing that to be in line with Adobe, and it will continue until the 26th of September. So any sites that you go live with before then will receive the same discount pricing, which is excellent. So, oh, hold on, we've got a question. Usage peak. Oh, I think that was from before, Mark. The usage peaks.
I was just going to answer that in the chat, but I can answer it better.
Yeah.
We don't plan. So the question was when you go up a plan based on usage and then you decrease again for the next month, like your usage drops, whether we would automatically downgrade those sites. The plan at the moment is not to, and the reason for that is that usage, typically the only metric really other than storage, well, storage and database objects are fairly sort of standard, but most of the metrics go up each month, or we can't see where you're going to end up at the end of the month. So things like emails, API calls, those kind of things, and even database objects and storage. So if we did do that, you'd be sort of maybe yo-yoing between the two quite a bit. So the plan is not to, and to give you control to do that manually if you wanted to. As always, this kind of thing is based on partner feedback and reviewing the best ways of doing things.
Yeah, for example, your usage may go down drastically because you're preparing to do a whole marketing campaign, so you've cleared out some of the old cases and things like that. And then if we suddenly lower your plan, it may panic the client because suddenly they haven't got the headroom they were expecting. But yeah, as Luke says, we'll keep reviewing and collecting feedback. Okie dokie. Excellent news about the extension. Yeah, absolutely. So just one final thing from me before we finish out. And as you may have just seen before I clicked off, it's just a reminder about the agency success team. So if you guys need any help, you can get in touch using the intercom chat or on the help docs as well. We grew our team a few months ago, a little over a few months ago now. So we're able to engage and take on supporting more of you to keep that high level of support as we scale. So just a reminder that they are there. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. And they have likely already been in touch with some of you. If not, the rest of you will be shortly to see how you're getting on if you need anything. So do say hello and get in touch with them when you can. Okay. Right.
Do you have one more? Do you have one more question, Martin, from Adam Broadway? So that was about, tell me more about the 10-pack.
Oh, the 10-pack of site plans. Oh, I thought we'd skated over that a bit quickly. Yeah.
Thanks, Adam. Good reminder. Yeah, so just to give a bit more detail on this, we will be sending out more and it'll be available in here. But essentially, you can buy a pack of 10 sites. We're just finalizing the automation of that, but we are offering them immediately. You can buy 10 sites. They go on the annual starter plan to start with. You get 50% off our already discounted prices. So it's a great way to get an even bigger discount by committing to 10 sites. You could then quickly do the site import tools that Martin was looking at and get those sites up and running and live as quickly as you wanted. So you'd buy them. And then what we're doing on top of that is you would get that discounted price, the 50% off, for another 4 years, so 5 years in total, assuming that you keep that site live and paid. And even further, on top of that, we are including any upgrades at the discounted rate. So if you go up from starter all the way up to the top plans, you get them at the 50% off price for those 5 years. So yeah, just you can buy those packs. Just contact us if you're interested. We would get them set up for you, and then you're free to import sites, use our design system, do whatever you need in terms of getting those sites built, and add a domain whenever you're ready. it goes very nicely with the site import tool, I think, the fact that you can easily sell a new client potentially on that feature alone. And then, Martin, if you don't mind just going back to the pricing again, those 3 new plans that we'd mentioned in the last one, static site, micro, mini, and max, they're designed for these kind of smaller sites that were very maybe storage or bandwidth heavy rather than database heavy from Business Catalyst, for example, or any other platform really, where you just want to get those sites across, get them live, and then start building on top, knowing that you're not going to hit the typical limitations. So yeah, have we answered the questions in the chat? Yeah, and a thank you there to Adam for working with us on this and proposing it actually as a great way for agencies to sort of really jump on board and benefit from that big discount. So we're really keen to properly launch that, and just reach out if you're interested.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to comment. I think with the work that the Siteglide team have done with the importer and the 10-pack, as Luke said, for those maybe smaller BC sites or maybe other CMSs that you've been working with, Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, there's a few others out there, WordPress, etc. Being able to import that and show your clients improvements almost immediately across performance, like Google Lighthouse speed performance scores, could be very useful in winning new business, and then of course upgrading them to all of the other Siteglide functionality. So that's why we wanted to do this for net new sites. Bob had a great question. I'd asked that question too, by the way, Bob. Can I put all my other sites on there? No, net new 10 packs can be only used with new sites. And I think if you've got 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 small web basics on BC and you want to move them quick, it's kind of, we wanted to make it a no-brainer with the Siteglide team to make that easy for you.
So just to clarify how that works, when you buy the pack, you buy all 10, it sets up 10 sites, 10 new sites for you, and starts the billing. So it wouldn't be for existing sites. You get those 10, and then you start using importer or whatever you needed on top. Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yeah, it's been great getting that one over the line. Can't wait to see how people can use it.
Yeah, excellent, exciting times. So, does anybody have any final questions they would like to get in before we close off for the day? I think a lot have been answered along the way. Stunned silence, that's what we're aiming for.
I think we covered everything.
No problem. Okay. Well, with that then, we will leave it there until next time. So keep your eyes peeled for tomorrow's release for the new usage going out, so that you can start exploring. Let us know if there are any issues or things that you want to flag with it, and we'll take a look. I think the team have been through and checked most sites, but there are always some outliers where things don't quite work as expected. Otherwise, we will see you all again next month. And I will end the recording when I can find the button.
Thanks everyone, and a big thank you to Devin again.